Hey, well, welcome back to the channel. So this is a video that's gonna be a little bit different. I know a lot of people liked my talking video about world schooling and homeschooling. So this is videos that I used to make a long time ago, where I would talk about the books that I've read. I have been working really hard to get through my TBR list. I have Kindle Unlimited, so it's like unlimited, obviously, amount of books that I can continue to read on there. But I've also had a lot of books that I've gotten from the first days, whatever it's called, through Amazon, where you get, if you're on Amazon Prime, I believe, you get a book every month for free. So I've had a bunch of those that are in my Kindle, as well as I have some on my shelf. All of these I'm going to just attach little pictures when I'm talking about them here. But I wanted to go over the books that I read in January and February and just tell you a little bit about them, the ones that I really liked, ones that I probably would never read again, and go from there. So I started out the year with Zodiac Academy. If you are a fan of Zodiac Academy, or if you're a fan of fantasy and you really need to read it. So I have been a big fan of the Zodiac Academy series. It was book 8. It was supposed to be the final book, which I'm super kind of annoyed about because I really wanted to just finish it. I hate having to wait for books. I prefer to pick up books that have the full series so that I can get to the end. I like to know how the stories end. So we waited and waited for this book to come out, and we were really excited for it. So I was pumped to read that book as soon as it came out. Well, I don't think I started as soon as it came out, but started pretty quickly. It was great. It was fantastic. Of course it was. If you know the series, you know the writers, the Twisted Sisters. I have read 3 of their series, I think, fully. There's a few other ones that I want to still read, but I'm trying to not read full series right now. I'm trying to get, like I said, through my TBR. So it's amazing. I can't really tell you much because it's obviously so far into the series that it would give away a lot of things that you would miss if you wanted to read the books. But if you're a fan of fantasy, you like, it's not really fae. They're very humanish, that have abilities, so they can use different earth, fire, wind, earth, fire, air, water, and war and craziness and heartbreak and cliffhangers. Then this is the series for you. You're gonna love it. It was really good. It's very magical. It's very fun. The second book that I read this year was Fangirl. So this one was sent to me last year. So you know those book chains that you kind of hear about on Facebook and wonder if they actually work, and most of the time probably don't sign up for. I did last year just to see. I'm like, what's the hurt? I have to send one book, and I love sharing my favorite books with people. So I signed up last year and actually got 3 books, I think, maybe 4 books. And so it was really nice to get some nice, actual physical copies of books to put on my bookshelf to read as I got to them. Obviously it took me a while to get to them. That's just a problem. Luckily I decluttered a lot of the books that I hadn't read, but I got to this one finally because I'd been wanting to, and it's just mostly because it's really pretty. It's pretty. It's a turquoise book. Obviously I will have the picture here. It actually was really cute. It was kind of young adult, coming of age kind of story, but I related it to it really heavily because it was at University of Nebraska. So if you guys don't know about me, you probably don't know a whole lot about me unless you're actually my friends or family, but I did go to the University of Nebraska at Kearney for a year. It's too much partying, too much, but it was fun. And so I kind of related to, like, obviously this one is based off of University of Lincoln, I believe is where they're living, because she's from Omaha. So it's a little bit different campus, but it feels very much like UNK when they're talking about the different places. And so it was kind of fun to read it from my own perspective as if I was the main character. So I enjoyed it. It was a cute little romance, little rom-com. Very much a similar character to who I am, a very introverted girl who goes to college. So it's a very cute book. I would give it 5 stars. It was really cute. If you want a book to pick up that's something simple to read, and it's obviously, coming of age, so it's for kind of based on college kids, but I really enjoyed it. All right, the third book was Redwall. So we've been, as a family for homeschool, been reading some book series. We love to read bigger book series because the kids like to have something that we continue to read throughout the weeks. So we picked up the Redwall series. We couldn't find it at our library previously, so we were really excited that here in Germany at our library on base, we were able to find the entire series. They have all of them. So we were really excited to start this book series because I really want my kids to get into fantasy like I am, and Dustin also really loves fantasy. So we love Redwall. I read it once. I think I only ever read the first book as a kid, and it was really, really fun to read with the kids. They sit with me and we read about 3 chapters a night, and we've really enjoyed the adventure. We're currently on Mossflower now, so if you haven't read these book series, it's actually pretty good even as an adult. I mean, obviously it's not going to be the same as the fantasy that I read now as Fae and all that, much more adult content included, because it is written for children, and it is mice and ferrets and weasels and martins and any woodland creature you can think of is in these books, and it's really, really fun. It's got different antagonists and protagonists throughout the whole story. There's obviously the main person or main characters of it, but then there's also many quests that they go on and many little stories. So we have been loving this adventure. So that's another great one this year. The next one's World Schooling. Obviously, I've been kind of studying and learning a little bit more about what the world schooling looks like, as well as how we can incorporate it into our homeschool and our future. So this was a really fun book. It was really, really easy. I picked it up as an audiobook and listened to it, and it was really nice to just hear her perspective, because she is coming into it as a perspective of whether world schooling fits with her. So it was kind of more research, like she was explaining how she researched it. She interviewed other world schoolers in order to kind of get their opinions on how things work, and it was really, really nice. I feel like even if you aren't homeschooling, this was a really, really good book because it allowed you, earthquakes, sorry I kicked the stand. It allowed you to also understand why families homeschool, like what draws a lot of people to homeschool, and I think it's going to continue to draw a lot of people. I know a lot of friends in my circle are coming into homeschooling in the next couple of years, and how to support that in yourself and in your friends and in your kids. This is a really, really good book. So if you are thinking about homeschooling in any sense, world schooling is kind of an attachment to this book. Obviously, that's the title of the book. However, it is very, very highly towards homeschooling and just kind of explaining why people make the decision to pull their kids from public schools. I think specifically in America, but also a lot of the world. I mean, the world schoolers are from around the world, which is beautiful. We are really, really hoping to be able to go to one of the meetups sometime this year. There's some coming up. I know that there's one in Prague that we've been kind of eyeing, and we'll see. So they do world schooling pop-up meetups, which is really cool. It's just a bunch of families from around the world. They meet up and they do school together for a week. I think it's a week. Maybe it's 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure it's just a week. And they have people that are coming in that are probably been doing world schooling for a long time. It's whoever the hosts are. And they come on and they teach your kids things about the culture of the country that the pop-up is in, as well as just doing math and everything together with a group of kids. So we are looking into hopefully coming to some of those. We definitely have the advantage of being here in Europe, because that's obviously where a lot of the world schooling classes happen, also across some parts of Asia, and I believe in Australia. So pretty cool. A really cool book. If you're even considering homeschool, pick it up. Oh, the next one I read was Grimm. So this one was written by a bunch of young adult authors that are really well known. I can't think of any of them off the top of my head. It'll be here on the picture. I have never actually read the Grimm fairy tales, so this was a little bit different. I didn't really know what to expect, and these were obviously modernized retellings of the Grimm stories. So it was different. It was kind of hard for me to read because it was small stories. There were a couple in there that I really enjoyed, a couple in there that I could have gone without. It was interesting. I thought it was going to be like a major hit because I had to wait like 18 weeks on Libby to check it out. I've been wanting to try to read it, so it was interesting. If you like Grimm fairy tales, you'd probably like it because the retellings were cool. They were very like more modern versions of what I assume are the original stories. So, Grimm. The next one, talking about adult fantasy, I suppose. Is it fantasy? No, not fantasy, just adult romance, I guess. I don't really know what you would consider this book. Anyways, I read Den of Vipers. My husband found it on TikTok and insisted that I read it because it's very similar to some of what the Twisted Sisters write. I enjoyed it well enough. I feel like if I hadn't already been a big, huge fan of the Twisted Sisters novels, that I would have enjoyed it a lot more. It was a little much for me. There was a little too gruesome, I guess, for my personal likings. So, yeah, it's about, I don't even know how to explain it. You guys, you need to just go look at the cover and find it and read the description about this book. But the Twisted Sisters have a book called Kings of Quarantine. Well, it's a series. So this is the problem that I had with this book is I read The Kings of Quarantine, which is very, very similar to this book, except for, that The Kings of Quarantine tells basically a similar story over 4 books. So it's a lot longer. There's a lot more like falling in love with the characters and understanding why things go the way that they do in their relationships. And it made more sense to me than this book that was pushed together in a really small book. And I just didn't really care about all the mobster stuff and the killing all these people and torture, and it was too much for me. It was too much. So not one of my favorite books of the year. Wouldn't read it again. The next one I read is Identical. Here. I've read a lot of her books. I like reading these because they're really, really fast paced. It's a good way for me to, when I'm trying to reach book goals, to pull in a book that I know I can read in a day, maybe 2 days. Didn't like this one. I've read this one when I was a kid and I really liked it back then. It was just a little triggering, I guess. That's such a like Gen X term, but you can read the description on that one. So the next book I read was Sparks Fly. So Sparks Fly is just a cute little rom-com. It's cute. I don't even, quite honestly, which is funny because it's on the last 2 books that I read, can't really remember what it's about. It was just a cute little romance. I can't even think about what it was about. It had been in my TBR on Kindle for years because it was one of those free books that I got. Either I got it from the Amazon First Books or I got it from an author directly. It was cute. I have no qualms with it. So if you're just looking for a cute pickup romance, this is a good one. Sparks Fly was cute. It was a cute book. That's all I remember. And then the last one I just read was The Searcher. So on my bookshelf, I had this beautiful hard copy book of a book called The Boy Who Saw. So I had asked Kira to pick up a book off of my shelf that I haven't read yet so that I could work on my TBR. Because I think the biggest problem I struggle with is once I've collected all these books, picking which ones to read in what order. So they tend to just sit there because I don't like to make decisions. So I had her pick one. So I picked it up, I was looking at it, I was like, oh cool. And I was reading the description, I was like, oh, this is gonna be fantastic. I am really stoked to read this. And then I was like, let me look it up because at the bottom it says a Solomon Creed novel. And so I was like, okay. So I picked it up and I went and Googled, and it was the second book in a series that follows this guy, Solomon Creed. And so I went and I was able to luckily pick up The Searcher from my library. And I liked it so much. I don't really know why, because it's kind of very like, it has Christian undertones, but not really. It's because of the story character that like they were following the story of Jack Cassidy or whatever, got a Bible from a preacher and started a church after he survived this whole ordeal in the desert. But it comes back to modern times. So it flips back and forth between Jack Cassidy's story and what is currently happening, where there's been this plane crash and there's been some sort of like drug laundering thing going on with some people over the border in Mexico. This all is happening in Arizona, like in the border. And there's this guy who comes out of the desert that nobody knows, and he helps solve the whole mystery and of who Jack Cassidy actually was, I guess, and helps to save this town. It was really, really interesting. It was changes and flips and switches all the time. It was a really cool book. So I'm actually even more excited now to read The Boy Who Saw, because this author kept me. It was a freaking almost 500-page book, and I read it in just a few days. It was so good, and it just like encapsulated my entire brain. I was thinking about it nonstop and wanting to know who this guy was that was in the desert and how are they going to stop the mob boss and how are they going to save the town? And I just wanted to know. And it changes like perspectives in every chapter. So you're like, oh, I was just almost figuring out the solution here. And then now we're over here. And it was so good. So I gotta say, that is one of the best books I've read this year. I am super excited about reading the second one. I am currently reading, sitting over there on my bed, Where the Crawdads Sing. I haven't read it before. Obviously, I think most of you have. It's a very popular book, but my mom sent it, and I needed a break in between because I don't like to read series like straight through because it's a lot of reading, especially when they're 500-page books. So I am reading that right now, but that will be in my next one. And I'm reading actually quite a few because I've been on an audiobook kick, and I found a bunch of really good ones that I want to be listening to from my library. So excited. Libby's amazing. So I hope that you guys stuck around. I talk so fast and I probably drive you nuts, but I hope you enjoyed my book reviews for January and February. We are trying to push our way through some books here in March. However, I'm not really sure how far we're going to get on that, simply because we are going on a vacation for 2 weeks to Italy, which you guys will get lots of travel videos after I get back because I don't have my PC with me. So there's going to be kind of probably a silence on the YouTube front for a little bit, but hopefully not for too long. Once I get back, I should be able to sit down and edit a bunch of videos for you guys. So exciting, fun things, and thanks for hanging out with us on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you can catch all of our videos coming up.